All right, welcome to the boardroom, everyone. Go ahead and grab a seat. Today, we're popping the hood and looking directly at the blueprints for literally the most ubiquitous economic operating system on the planet. We are breaking down Capitalism 101, the free market engine, in today's explainer. And I want you to think of this not just as some dry economic theory, but as a highly dynamic, incredibly functional machine. We're going to strip it down to the studs, look at the core mechanics, and figure out exactly why it operates the way it does. So get ready because we're moving fast today, and this pitch deck is designed to give you absolute crystal clarity on the rules of the game.
Here is the blueprint for our free market engine. We'll be running through 4 quick phases. 1, the definition. 2, the legal pillars. 3, the freedom matrix. And 4, the coordinating systems. Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1, the definition. We really need to set the baseline here and establish exactly what it is we're looking at. So here is your foundational textbook definition. A capitalist economy is essentially one where productive resources, things like land, factories, technology, are privately owned to earn profits. That is the absolute fundamental driver. But crucially, this system requires minimum government intervention. And what does that actually mean in practice? Well, it means economic activities are mostly unplanned and totally uncoordinated from the top down. There's no master planner sitting in some central office dictating what gets built or who builds it. Because it's based on this core idea of free enterprise with minimal state interference, you'll actually hear it called by a few different industry terms. It's really often referred to as a market economy, a free enterprise economy, or even a laissez-faire economy. And just to establish the sheer scale and credibility of this model, it is the oldest economic system in existence, and it's actively driving the absolute largest markets in the world today. We're talking the US, the UK, Canada, and France.
Moving right along to Section 2, the legal pillars. Let's look at the actual structural rules that make this whole engine viable. We have 2 completely non-negotiable legal pillars here. First up, private property. This is the absolute essence of capitalism, the idea that individuals and companies can acquire, use, and sell physical assets. Factories, machines, plants, you name it. Now sure, this right isn't totally unrestricted by the government, but it is the absolute bedrock. Then, right alongside it, you have the right of inheritance. This means the property you own can be legally passed on to your legal heirs, like your sons and daughters. These 2 pillars combine seamlessly. You don't just get to own the factory, you actually get to transfer that wealth generationally.
And honestly, that brings us to the most crucial point of this whole setup. Inheritance provides a massively powerful incentive to save and accumulate wealth. Think about it. If you couldn't pass on the fruits of your labor and all your investments, the drive to build massive, long-term capital would just completely stall out. This specific legal right acts as the ultimate incentive structure for individuals to build and scale capital over their entire lifetimes. It is literally the fuel for the engine.
All right, Section 3, the freedom matrix. This is all about dynamic flexibility. Let's look at the actors within the system and exactly who gets to do what. We can actually break this matrix down into 3 sequential steps of freedom. Step 1 is freedom of enterprise. This means private enterprises are completely free to use their productive resources to produce literally whatever product they choose. Step 2, freedom of occupation. This is massive for the labor force. Individuals are entirely free to choose a job based on their own education, talent, and ability. They can move dynamically from one job to another or from one city to another, constantly hunting for better opportunities. And finally, step 3 is freedom of choice for consumers. Consumers are entirely free to buy and consume the exact goods and services that they actually want.
Now, what's really interesting about this dynamic is how that final freedom, the freedom of the consumer, actually flips the whole power structure upside down. In this matrix, the choices and preferences of the consumer completely dictate the nature and the quantity of goods that get produced. The businesses don't dictate to the market dictates to the businesses. That is exactly why, in a capitalistic economy, the consumer is regarded as a sovereign or a king. The king's preferences run the entire production line.
Let's move to Section 4 and see how this all builds together, the coordinating systems. Because if millions of businesses are freely producing, and millions of workers are freely moving, and millions of consumers are freely buying, how on earth is this not just total chaos?
Well, the answer is the price mechanism. This is the process where the prices of goods and services are determined entirely by the market forces of demand and supply. It's the basic coordinating mechanism of the entire economy, and it determines exactly how available productive resources are used. It's so effective and yet completely decentralized that the legendary economist Adam Smith famously called the price mechanism an invisible hand that guides the market.
Let's actually walk through the mechanical sequence of this invisible hand. Step 1 is the profit motive. Maximizing profits is the sole motive of producers here. It's literally the only reason economic activities are carried out, and it is what perfectly allocates resources. Producers will automatically shift to produce goods that yield higher profits. Step 2 is competition. Because everyone is chasing that profit, you get fierce rivalry. In the product market, producers compete to sell goods, which promotes efficiency and drives production costs down to the absolute lowest possible level. Meanwhile, in the factor market, like the labor market, workers are competing to give their best performance to secure the highest possible wages. Then, step 3, the price mechanism, synthesizes all of this competitive data and sets the market prices.
And that brings us to the ultimate realization of the capitalist engine. Basically, everyone is guided by pure self-interest. Producers want maximum profits. Laborers want maximum wages. Consumers want the absolute best products at the lowest possible prices. And yet, somehow, this self-interest doesn't create anarchy. It actually gives direction and provides incredibly orderly behavior to the functioning of the entire economy. It's a system built entirely on individual ambition that mathematically balances itself out.
Which leaves us with this final thought for today's explainer. We've seen the blueprint, right? We've seen how private property, the freedom matrix, the profit motive, and the invisible hand of the price mechanism all lock together to form this self-regulating engine. But the grand question remains, can pure self-interest truly be the ultimate organizer of a functional economy? It's a massive question, one that has defined global markets for centuries, and truly understanding these mechanics is the first step to answering it for yourself. Thank you so much for joining me in the boardroom today, and keep questioning the mechanics of the world around you.